Welcome to the Well Woman Show. Each episode is a transformational journey using mindfulness, feminism, leadership, and strategy to support you to thrive personally, generate wealth, and impact your community. And now, here's your host, feminist thought leader, London School of Economics grad, leadership consultant, and transformational coach, Giovanna Rossi.
Well, hello, well women. Giovanna Rossi here, and welcome to another Just Giovanna episode. Today, we're talking about how to know when to take action. So if you are familiar with the Well Woman framework, you know that a big part of it is taking aligned action. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But first, I want to tell you about a conversation I had with my daughter that leads into this. So my daughter's 8, and she's, as a lot of children are right now, doing, the homeschooling thing. Anyway, we were sitting chatting, and she looked up at me, and she always has these, really intense questions for me, which is great. She's very curious and smart. And I used to call her my baby Buddha, because when she was born, she looked up at me and I just had this overwhelming sense that I was holding this very old soul. And so she looked up at me and asked me, "Mommy, what if you had blonde hair?" And I said, "Well, I did used to have blonde hair. I actually was born very blonde. And over time it got darker. And then I would kind of highlight it. And then I would stop highlighting it. And then it got darker. And so we were kind of talking about this, and she said, "Oh, but now you have grays, like gray hairs." And I said, "Yeah, I do." And of course, I'm thinking to myself, okay, model, like positive body image. And I have a pretty good practice of doing this in general with the kids, so that they see and hear their parents speaking positively about themselves and their bodies. And so I never, talk badly about my body or my grays that I have in my hair. I'm on the hashtag gray hair don't care train. So anyway, she said, "But now you have grays." And I said, "Yeah, I'm older and wiser, and I enjoy my grays because I'm older and wiser, and I like that about myself." And she paused and thought about it. And she looked up at me and she said, "But not all old people are wise." I said, "Yep, you're right. That is very true." So we had a whole conversation about what that means. And, just because you're progressing in age doesn't mean you're progressing in wisdom or inner knowledge or inner knowing. So it was very poignant and timely when we had this conversation. I had just had a big birthday, and it just brought home to me some of the work I do here in Well Woman Life with you, and the idea that we really want to tap into our inner wisdom is a huge part of this, right? And so when you can hear your inner wisdom and listen to it, and those are two very different things, right? Like when you can hear it and when you actually listen to it. How many of us have heard our inner wisdom and completely ignore it, and later, find out like, "Oh, I should have listened to that." So it's when we hear our inner wisdom and listen to it that we can create an aligned action plan. So I talk a lot about aligned action, and this is the topic of this podcast today: how to know when to take action. And so I'm a big proponent of I don't really like the messaging that's out there about like, just take action, like any action is better than no action. I'm really not, I don't subscribe to that at all. However, I understand where it's coming from, and I just want to kind of dig into that with you for a minute. So aligned action is when you're taking action based on some alignment with your inner knowing, with your truth, right? When we take action that is not aligned, we take action that we later regret, or it doesn't serve us, or it's destructive, it can lead us into just more anxiety than we already have. So I really want to spend a minute on this point, because what I want to get across here is that when we have an action plan that is aligned with our inner wisdom, we can take, like, doing a little bit is better than doing nothing. So it's not that I'm saying never take action. That's not the point. The point is don't just take random action that, you think you should, or you're expected to. If you hear the word should in front of the action that you're taking, then it's probably not aligned with what your inner knowing is. And so really taking some time to go back through the framework, which starts with awareness and then moves into intuition and inner knowing and inner wisdom. And then once you've gone through those two stages, taking aligned action is a no-brainer. You don't even hardly have to think about what to do, because you're so aligned, right? So that's not to say you don't need to do planning and goal setting and those kinds of things, because that's very helpful to keep you on track and accountable and productive. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But really getting across the idea that how do we know when to take action? It's when the action is aligned with our inner knowing. And we know that because we have a strong pull to that, and there's this truth to it, right? And that's the alignment.
We'll be right back. I'm so thankful for support from Natural Awakenings magazine in New Mexico, a monthly green, healthy lifestyle publication, and for support from High Desert Yoga, promoting optimum physical health, clarity of mind, and spiritual inspiration for all. Many of you have followed my journey from consulting to women's leadership and empowerment, starting a nonprofit, raising 2 kids, and everything in between. I've really taken some time this year to focus in on where I can help the most women with their own desire to create social impact and also a good income for themselves and their families. As my consulting and coaching practice is growing, I found that one of my favorite things to do is the free discovery sessions. I love hearing about people's passions for the work they do, sharing what I do, and helping people understand what my hybrid consulting coaching is all about. Hint, hint, serious strategy plus spacious mindset. So if you find yourself worrying about whether you'll ever make it in the thing you're pursuing, or waking up in the middle of the night anxious about money, lacking energy you need to get everything done, or procrastinating on moving forward with projects and tasks, or even if you're in a leadership role, but you're second guessing yourself and not getting things done, I'd love to talk to you. These conversations help me get clear on how I can help more leaders create the impacts and income they want, so they can start living with ease and joy. Plus, you'll get a free hour with me to get crystal clear on what you want to create for your company or organization and your life, and what's been holding you back. So if you're interested, you can book a call at wellwomanlife.com/learn more. We're back on the Well Woman Show.
Let's talk about that a little bit. When you're in alignment, taking some action is better than taking no action. And usually you hear me talk about, that's not the case. You don't want to just take any action. Any action is not better than no action. That is when I'm talking about action that's not aligned with anything, right? You're just like random. I should do this. I'm expected to do that. But when it's aligned, then taking action becomes easeful. It becomes joyful. It becomes, like I said, like a no-brainer, like you know what the next step is. And that's not to say you're, always going to be completely clear and, never second guess yourself. That's the work, right? That's the practice. So, an example of taking some action is better than no action is I do a 2-mile run every morning, and 2 miles is just about 5 laps around the park in my neighborhood. And so I know that if I get 5 times around that park, I've done my 2 miles, and feels like a real accomplishment. So I know that doing 2 miles a day is my aligned action. I know that's aligned with my truth right now, right? So So I'm good there. So what used to happen is I would say to myself, oh, I don't have time to get 5 times around. Because I have to be back, home for an appointment or to do something with the kids. So I just won't do it. And so then I would do 0. And I would say, well, I can do it later in the day. Of course, that never happens because the longer you put it off, or I'll just speak for myself, the longer I put it off, it just wouldn't happen. The more I get into my day, I need to get it done early. So the other day I looked at my watch and I had enough time to go and get about 3 laps done. It wouldn't be the full 5. And while that's disappointing to a type A perfectionist, overachiever, high achiever, I sat with it and I said, I would rather get 3 laps done than 0. So I went and I did it and I got home in time for my appointment and I felt good. I had done something. Right? Like I kept on track with my exercise. And so it felt really good. So that's an example of when it is right to go ahead and take action. Taking some action is better than no action. Okay. So definitely want to encourage you to revisit the framework where we talk about these different stages. Awareness precedes inner knowledge and intuition. And there are lots of tools and exercises to do in the awareness section. And then inner knowledge or intuition precedes aligned action. And that's what we've just been talking about. Once you have those in place, you can access flow or integration, which is the final stage after aligned action. So I want to share with you some resources regarding taking action. If you're at that point where you're like totally aligned, and remember, just because you're aligned in one area of your life doesn't mean you have to be aligned in every area. So you can have complete clarity about something in your health or your wellness, for example, and be in alignment and ready to take action in that area. And you can be in a completely different stage in a different area of your life, like work or relationship or finances. And that's fine. We can work simultaneously in all of these areas. And that's what's great about this framework. It holds space for that for you. So assuming you're in aligned action in some area of your life, I highly suggest doing some goal setting and results planning. That's how I do my planning. There's a couple of episodes that are good for that. And I'll just give you the numbers. You can, and we'll put it in the show notes, 059 and 079 are 2 good episodes for goal setting. And after you do your goal setting and your results planning, you're going to want to look at productivity. So how do you free up time to tackle your goals? And, what kinds of productivity tools? Can I do a time audit? How should I do my calendaring? Should I do time blocking? There's a lot of resources on this in episode 192. So check that out for freeing up time to tackle your goals. And I love time audits. I think it's a great way to just get a handle on like, where are you spending your time? And then time blocking is great too. There are a couple of episodes around creating more time and space in your schedule. And those are 163 and 169. Definitely recommend going and checking those out. And then, so we've gone over goal setting a little bit. We've gone over productivity tools and time management, lots of resources there on the podcast. And then number 3 is having a really good morning and evening routine. So my morning routine actually starts the night before, which is why I say morning/evening routine. I love having getting started the night before because it gets me prepared for a really awake and aligned morning. So in the evening, I do a gratitude practice and I look at my calendar and I do some planning so that I know how I'm going to accomplish all the things that I need to accomplish the next day. And I have that in my calendar the night before. Then in the morning, I wake up and everybody's routine is going to be slightly different, right? Like you don't need to adopt my specific routine, but just do what works for you and kind of play around with some of these things. And if you used to have a routine and you don't anymore, or you want to try some of these things, give it a go for a week, see how you do. You can rearrange things to suit your schedule or your life. But in the morning, I get up at 5:30. I meditate at 6 with a group. And then I go for a run. I make a smoothie. I have my tea. I have a whole thing. And it doesn't have to be exactly in the same order every day. I'm not that rigid. However, if it's helpful for you to have everything in the same order for it to feel like a routine, that's fine too. So I've done all of this by the time my kids are, kind of up and going and ready for breakfast. And so then I make them breakfast, get them started on their online schooling right now. So I think I'll probably do a whole episode on morning and evening routines. And we certainly do, I do periodic challenges around this, which are fun because we all get to create our morning and evening routine and really, practice it. So that's number 3. Number 4 is accountability. So when you're talking about taking aligned action and being productive and using your time well, and having a morning and evening routine, accountability can be super helpful. So if you have an accountability partner, awesome. If you don't, come over to our Facebook group, wellwomanlife.com/Facebook, and we can provide some accountability in there. And number 5, so I have these 5 tips. Number 5 is energy level. So what fuels you? Where is your energy level so that you can be productive once you have your action plan? What fuels you? So think about your environment. What are you putting into your body? What are you reading? What are you watching? Who are you talking to? What fuels you and what depletes you? And just journal on this and pick 4 or 5 things that really fuel you and make you feel good, and start doing those. There's an episode on this. It's 188, create more energy and focus to tackle your goals. So 188, you can listen to that. I hope that this has been helpful. If you'd like to work with me on this one-on-one or in a small group, email me at info@wellwomanlife.com. And I'd love to get you started on the path to living your very own Well Woman life. A lot of people, when they hear the interviews on this show, they say to me, wow, how can I be on your show? I want to be one of those well women that's featured on your show. And, many of you are, a lot of people who I've interviewed actually listen to the show. And also, it's about just starting to live your well woman life, not the life that someone said you should live or that you were expected to live, but really living your life. So I want to leave you with that. I hope that's been helpful in terms of knowing knowing when to take action and how. For those 5 tips, you can go to the show notes at wellwomanlife.com/201show. And I hope you have a fabulous week.
That's it for our show today. Remember, if you need support to live your Well Woman life, head over to wellwomanlife.com/Facebook to join our community. As a reminder, we are on NPR every week, so be sure to tune in at npr.org/podcasts and search for The Well Woman Show. If you enjoyed today's show, please take a moment and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review. This helps raise visibility, which is super helpful when it comes to producing the show every week. For feedback, comments, or just to let me know you were listening, find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Well Woman Life. I'm Giovanna Rossi for The Well Woman Show. Until next time, have a super powerful week.